Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Incubator Podcast. We are back today for an episode of Tech Tuesday, and I am joined in the studio today by Dr. Donna Brezinski. Donna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am a big fan of your LinkedIn page because under your name, your titles are Doctorpreneur, Innovator. I am very jealous.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
You are a neonatologist by trade. You trained at, you got your degree in medicine at Yale. You did your fellowship at Harvard, and you've worked at Boston Children until 2015. And you've taken the path of entrepreneurship innovation since then. How gratifying has this career adjustment been for you?
It's been incredibly gratifying, and it certainly was an unexpected path for me. And I think that's often the case with entrepreneurs is that somewhere in your normal profession, you come across a problem that hasn't really been able to be satisfactorily solved, and you come up with an idea and you feel passionate about it, and that's exactly what happened.
That's great. You are the CEO of Little Sparrows Technologies, which is the company that we're here to talk about today, and your flagship product is the BiliHut. So, can you tell us a little bit about what is the BiliHut and how what is the problem that, as you just mentioned, you identified and tried to solve through this solution?
So the problem that I'm trying to solve is to improve access and affordability to high intensity phototherapy treatment for jaundice. And a little bit about that condition. Jaundice occurs in about 1 out of 10 babies worldwide. And so if you look at that globally, we're talking about 14 million babies that have severe enough jaundice that require treatment. And the consequence of not treating that can be quite dire. It can cause babies to develop permanent brain injury, manifests as cerebral palsy and deafness and vision impairment. And in extreme cases, it can kill a baby, which is completely preventable. And so we see in lower resource areas of the world, more than 100,000 babies die every year because they lack access to high intensity blue light phototherapy, which I think is just unconscionable. So we know how to cure jaundice. We know what wavelength of light and what intensity, and that we need to expose the baby's skin to as much of that as possible to adequately treat jaundice. But where we had not solved the problem was creating a device that was accessible to all. And I felt very passionate about that because 1 or 2 days of light therapy completely changes the trajectory of a baby's life from having these, um, neurologic damage that I just described to potentially having a completely normal and healthy life just with that early intervention. And so I made it my mission to try and have babies, not only in the US, but everywhere, have access to this treatment.
The name that you've given this product, the Belly Hut, is such a good one because I think that whatever, if you're listening in the car, whatever you're going to imagine the Belly Hut might be, it's probably that.
Right.
uh,
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a play on words. Not everybody knows that. So what you're alluding to is like the physical appearance of the Billy Hut device. It looks like a little hut that goes over a baby bassinet, and inside the hut part or the canopy part is the light treatment for the baby. But HUT is also stands for high intensity ultra portable treatment of jaundice.
Love
So
it.
it's kind of a twofer.
Yeah, and I think that some of the solutions that the Belly Hut provides is quite interesting because number one, like you said, hyperbilirubinemia it's an interesting pathology because, like you said, it is so frequent, it has such dire consequences, but we see it, and we because we see it so frequently, we're a little bit nonchalant about it, but it is a big deal, and and phototherapy is an intervention. So I think that the belly hut, based on its canopy that is sort of semicircular, you have a very nice exposure to the baby to actually achieve a high effectiveness of phototherapy. But you also had not just the patient in mind, but the family in mind. And I think that's
Yes.
very interesting because obviously, for us, I'm going to talk about myself. One of the big things we're proud of in our institution is that we're able to provide phototherapy at the bedside of the parent. But our anxiety is, oh my God, what about the interruptions for breastfeeding? And what if the mother needs to breastfeed for an extended period of time? Is it going to interrupt the phototherapy? But you kept that in mind as you were designing this product.
Absolutely, and, thank you for bringing that part of it up is because I think a lot of people focus on the efficacy of a phototherapy device based on the light output, and the efficacy has the interaction of the mother, the care provider, and the baby in mind as well. So, it just so happens, unfortunately, that when babies develop jaundice, it's right in the first week of life when mothers are trying to develop lactation and bond with their babies, and oftentimes treatment separates the mother from the baby, which is exactly what you don't wanna do. You want to keep that baby fed and hydrated, and the mother is the primary source of that, during treatment, and so we wanted to have a device that literally could be set up anywhere next to the mother, whether she was still in the hospital in her postpartum room, or if she was at home or we actually have a clinic in Outer Mongolia that developed a home phototherapy program where they were deploying these in the home there. So this can go anywhere, literally anywhere.
Wow.
A couple features of the BiliHut that really help with that. The first is that the baby's head is not under the light canopy. The baby's head is visible to the mother at all times, so the mother will be recognizing feeding cues. And the efficacy of the BiliHut is excellent so that a mother can have interrupted phototherapy, meaning that the mom can read the cues, take the baby out to feed for 20 minutes, and return the baby to therapy with really no impact on the therapy at all. There was a study that was completed at the end of last year by Brown University that showed the average treatment time in the home, with mothers delivering this therapy was 15 hours,
Wow.
which is, as you know, so much faster than pretty much any other phototherapy solution, either in the hospital or, portable solutions.
Yeah. And the 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 intervention itself, it's something that Daphna and I on the podcast have talked about many times, is that it is an intervention, and so it has to be delivered appropriately. And I think that the design of the belly hut is such that what we've seen, at least for us, sometimes in the clinical settings, is that the light is placed on the baby, and then maybe it's set up correctly initially, but then the baby gets moved, that light gets taken away, especially if it's an overhead, and we don't know when it gets placed back, if it's gonna be at the right height and if it's gonna be at the right intensity, but I think that the HUD does solve that problem by default based on its design.
It does, and so, again, that's another outstanding point for this device that not everybody recognizes. So, lamp position errors, meaning that the light is either placed at an incorrect height or is not centered over the baby, really do contribute to, uh, less effective phototherapy, particularly in the hospital setting. We see this that it's very easy to bump into these devices when they're positioned over the baby, and they end up not delivering the light as effectively as they should. The BiliHut is a fixed position light array that always sets up at exactly the correct height, and the curve of the canopy reflects all scattered light back toward the baby. So you don't have these, I'll refer to them as hotspots. You don't have these areas where you're getting a ton of phototherapy and areas where you're not. The treatment field that the baby is placed in is fairly evenly illuminated. So even if the baby moves a little bit one way or the other, you're not gonna have, impact on the efficacy of phototherapy.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a lot about the use of the belly hut by the mother's bedside, but I couldn't help but think about its potential use in the NICU as well, because how many apparatus have I seen where we use the foil and we use different lights to literally achieve what you're kind of doing by default with this, or with this arch that surrounds the baby, and you have evenly distributed intensity across this semicircle. Um, I mean, it felt like it could relieve a lot of angst about put more aluminum over there,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I'm laughing about this because certainly, early in my training, that was kind of that's what we did. You had one lamp and you'd get a roll of aluminum foil and you try to reflect the light back, and in a way that's the inspiration for the design of this device. It's like, why are we doing that when you can actually design a device that has that as part of the way the light is delivered, is to reflect that back. The other thing, that is a big problem in phototherapy, if I could just add, is,
Please.
the issue of thermoregulation, keeping the baby warm. And, that is, as you can imagine, a big problem, when you start using fiber optic pads or other devices where, the pad itself has to be in contact with the skin, and then you're swaddling a blanket around the baby with that pad inside that blanket, and you do worry about the baby getting overheated or getting uncomfortable, and they get fussy, and then you unwrap them, and then they're not getting effective treatment, and all of a sudden, you see the treatments going on for 3 or 4 days or sometimes longer. Um, the way that our unit is set up, when the canopy is in place, the interior is lined with, it looks like aluminum foil. It's a coated mylar material that not only reflects the blue light back toward the patient to amplify the efficacy of the treatment, but it also reflects infrared back. And so heat that is emitted from the baby is reflected back toward the baby, much like an emergency blanket. You've seen these reflective blankets. Same principle. So uh, in our facility, we have actually tested to see where that equilibrates to, and if you measure the temperature on the interior chamber of the BiliHut, it equilibrates to be between 7 and 8 degrees warmer than ambient, which just happens to be what you would set an incubator at for a near-term baby to get phototherapy, and so these infants stay perfectly euthermic during treatment, which is a huge change for, portable phototherapy. We just haven't had any other configurations that really, keep the infant's, thermal comfort in mind as well as the efficacy of the treatment.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. We had like a whole series on thermal regulation in our podcast, and we absolutely understand the struggle that it can be sometimes to to keep a baby comfortable, especially from that standpoint. Since we're talking about these phototherapy pads that we are commonly using as well in the NICU and the nursery, I'm just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the difference with the BiliHut, especially in terms of skin surface area exposure, because we know that obviously for phototherapy, the more skin can be targeted by the phototherapy, the better the outcome, in terms of shorter duration of time. Um, what is the difference between the BiliHut and, again, one of these pads, and what are your thoughts on these different solutions?
Yeah, yeah, and, that's, I think, at the crux of the efficacy of BiliHut. So, early on, when we were trying to optimize the arc of the light, and even though it looks like a simple canopy, it's actually a composite of 2, I don't mean to get too nerdy about this, 2 geometric shapes. So, the top third of the canopy is, it's as if it was a half cylinder, and so that arc is positioned over the baby so that the light converges at the center point of the baby's torso. Um, and then on the sides, if we continue to do that configuration and have a half cylinder, the device would be quite wide, right? So it wouldn't fit in anything. So that's more like a parabola. And so the interior support element of the BiliHut is actually shaped so that when you flex it, it doesn't flex into a half circle. It flexes into this kind of unique shape. The end result of that is you have more delivery of light at a right angle to the surface of the skin, or it's called normal incident. And we actually did studies very early on looking at this effect in bilirubin conversion, and we made artificial skin and attached it to a baby mannequin. And then in that artificial skin, we had bilirubin, and then measured the conversion of bilirubin over time with a traditional planar light array and then our curved light array, and it was multiple times faster. And the reason is that with overhead planar arrays, flat arrays, or spotlights, the light arrays are all coming in one direction, but babies are not flat. Babies are curved, and so on the sides of the baby, light that hits that part of the baby, is not coming in at a 90-degree angle to the surface of the skin, and a decent amount of that lighting energy is actually reflected off the skin and doesn't penetrate into it. So as you move across the contour of the baby, in the center, you have a fairly intense hotspot with a planar overhead light, but as you start to move over to the sides, you dramatically lose efficacy of treatment. And, when you listen to that, it's just like if you are lying in the sun at noontime, you're gonna get a pretty bad burn on your nose and in the center of your chest, and you're probably not gonna get anything on the side. It's the
Mhm.
same exact principle. And I don't again, it's
It's a great
you
example.
have these aha moments, like, "Why has no one done this?" The way that we've tried to mitigate this in the NICU as practitioners is we use more than one device. So
Mhm.
you often will see,
Yeah,
2
like
or 3 devices kind of angled over the baby, which, is a very expensive solution, right? You need more capital equipment to deliver the same therapy, but even then, it's pretty imperfect. And when you combine putting a baby in an incubator and the attenuation of light when trying to get through the plastic and the reflection off the surface of the plastic, what you think you're delivering and what you actually deliver when you finally get to the patient can be, quite different. So with BiliHut, you don't have any of those impediments. The light is coming in radially, and so you've optimized the 90-degree incident to the surface of the skin. You have deeper penetration of the light, and you have much higher turnover of bilirubin for that reason.
it looks like this project refreshed your physics
Yeah.
your physics know-how.
Yes, yes, that I was, like many physicians, I was a STEM major, so it wasn't too far removed, but it really did, kind of bring me back to some very basic principles of,
I love it.
physics and biochemistry, for sure.
Since you're talking about, you were talking earlier about resource and being conscious about that. I can't help. I mean, the time is flying by, but I can't help but not mention the global impact and the BiliHut Global. Can you tell us a little bit about what is it and and where is that commitment to global health coming from?
So BiliHut Global is a version of BiliHut that's really has a few other design features that are, make it an optimal for deployment in areas that are, low resource and in particular have, um, unreliable line power. We spent a lot of time in other countries, early on during this development, and we received a grant, to spend some time doing human-centered design research in India, and we sort of went through the gamut of the, healthcare system there from the tertiary centers in their, bigger cities all the way out to village sub-centers that had virtually no electricity, trying to understand what the needs were there. And similarly, we were in Malawi, looking at their healthcare system as well, where there's, big problems with delivery of jaundice care. And by and large, the 2 main issues were durability of the equipment and energy efficiency, and the equipment had to be able to be power agnostic. Whatever source of power you had to have this device be adaptable to that. So Global operates on less than a 10-watt power draw and still will deliver actually, I just tested in the office yesterday, still will deliver a radiance of about 47 microwatts per centimeter square per nanometer, which is essentially like double surface phototherapy. And so
Wow.
there are babies in rural Burundi, getting the equivalent of 2 Neo Blues of phototherapy, running on a car battery. We can do this direct to DC current and literally run this anywhere in the world. The other thing is the durability is that we backed away from, um, constructing this out of, injection molded or plastic or thermal molded plastic, which a lot of devices are. And the reason for that is we found that that material is not particularly robust in areas where there's not temperature and humidity control. The plastic tends to get quite brittle. Often these things are put kind of in near windows that are not UV filtered, and it over time the equipment just really gets a lot of stress fractures and then breaks. If it gets there, that was the other problem is that just the transport there could be tough. So the exterior of our device of BiliHut is made out of a material similar to a blood pressure cuff. It's a sort of Cadora nylon material that has a urethane coating, and you could throw this off the roof and it's not going to break. Um, and that was a very intentional design. It's a soft goods design. I think that's people have to wrap their heads around that because they are so accustomed to seeing devices that are metal and plastic. But metal and plastic does not solve the problem in the at the last mile in global health.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes you have these products that look beautiful. Like the BiliHut looks absolutely beautiful. Like it's the kind of product you would I would want one in my home. But
Thank
then
you.
you look at the global health version of it, and it's really awful looking, and you're like, oh my god. But the BiliHut Global looks just as good.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
looks super nice, and it's kudos for not depleting the aesthetics
thank you.
on the global version and also solving a lot of the issues, obviously, as you mentioned. Um, I want to go back to accessibility because we're reaching the end of our time. So, for clinicians who would like to learn more, first of all, I think that the first step is probably to send an email. The website is easily accessible. People can find out more at littlesparrowstech.com. We will link to the website on the episode page. And from there, it's easy to get in touch with your team. I think that people can send emails directly to info@littlesparrowstech.com. There's even a phone number. So you're definitely accessible. But let's say that there are patients that we would like to hook up with a Little Sparrows device and a BiliHut. Is that something that can be ordered through via insurance? Can you tell us a little bit more about where are we at in terms of availability in the US, for example?
Right, so we have, on the outpatient side, if you wanted home phototherapy treatment, there are a few avenues, and it depends on where you're located. We're not in all 50 states yet, although we're working on that. So there are some larger DME providers, durable medical equipment providers, that have this in their, as one of their services, and it can be ordered through, your pediatrician or your family practitioner can order one through a DME provider. There are visiting nurse agencies and midwives who also do full service. So they will set this up in the home, do an assessment of the baby, weigh the baby, draw the bilirubin, do the whole thing. And that is also covered by many insurances as well. And so that's another option. And then we're starting to get some hospitals who have their own internal DME companies as part of their networks, bringing BiliHuts on board so that they can discharge the patients home to phototherapy and not have to readmit them or prolong the length of stay.
Great, great. Again, Donna, congratulations on this work.
Thank you.
It's amazing, and I will reiterate littlesparrowstech.com to learn more about the BiliHut and some of the other solutions that are available on the site. Thank you again for taking the time to be on the podcast. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.